authors and just one of the world's most important authors. I'm very happy to be reading with you, Sharhnush. So I'm just going to read an excerpt from this book, None of This Is Real, that just came out. And I'm going to read from the middle of the eponymous story, which is called None of This Is Real, and go figure. And I'm going to read from the section that I call the divination section, which is this character. I do have to give a little bit of backstory. This character is, spoiler alert, beginning his reincarnation ahead of schedule, and he's becoming a shark, and it's causing a lot of headaches. And he's going to various occultists to see if he can find out what is happening. Because of course, medical doctors are no help to him, which is so often the case, really. Headache after headache. What else to call the tormenting sensation of a forced point? Like the peak of a broken crown, stabbing upward from the center of his mind, brain. He felt the mysterious hurt bore him a message. He was not photophobic or phonophobic. He did not have auras or nauseas. He tried sleeping with the pillow his mother Sonia had made him. He woke up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat. The pillow smelled of her, pharmaceuticals, mold, smoke, sachets. He heard his downstairs neighbor, Crescent, moving around in her apartment, also sleepless. She was a fortune teller, a lover of the fickle moon in its guises, especially its sickle form, when it was nascent, or conversely dying away. Outside her door hung a sign, Cartomancy with handmade lunar deck by Crescent Moon. She wore cat-eye glasses, the kind worn by school teachers to frighten their pupils. She was one of those young ladies whose fashion is an homage to old ladies. Her own grandmother had never needed to change her feline look. Much of Crescent's various cat-themed accoutrements were acquired from her. O had seen them walking together down the street like two memories of one lifetime. It was just like them to be similar. Confused images merged in his mind of the two Crescents, young and old, lightly treading an earthen road, arm in arm. Sonia and Alicia Crowley, the messenger wearing the Hermes patch, the metallic taste of chiaroscuro, shelf after shelf piled high to the sky with books. Suddenly the sound of Crescent singing and playing a guitar broke his reverie. He could hear every word. She played the song continuously, altering the tune. By the third time she'd sung it through, O was penetrated with longing. How had he failed to notice there was a singing, clairvoyant enthusiast right downstairs? It seemed like an omen. He poked his head out of his door, wrote down the number on her sign, and called to me an appointment. The reading took place in the front room of Crescent's two-room studio, which had the same layout as O's but was sparser. There was a single bed, neatly made, a hot plate, a small refrigerator, and in the corner by a large open picture window, a black rocking chair and her instrument on a stand. Above the chair hung a print of a Magritte painting, collective invention, in which a woman with a fish's head lies on the shore of the sea. Crescent unfolded the legs of a black card table that had been leaning against the wall across from the large picture window, with a view to 100 tarmac rooftops, a world of pigeons, seagulls, roofers, lookers, and smokers. She snapped each leg into place. She spread the legs of two matching folding chairs, and she and O sat facing one another. Mounted on the walls were many tiny chairs of various materials, cans, walnuts, cane, porcelain, spirit chairs, she called them. When Crescent asked O why he had come to see her, his throat closed and his chest ached. With difficulty, he told her about his headaches and his book. He thought of saying something about her singing, but he did not. Crescent's face was neutral as she listened. She shuffled the cards in a matter-of-fact way, handed him the deck, and politely requested that he cut it 3 times. She laid out 10 cards face down in a spiral across the rickety card table. Not feeling well, she said. Book aches, headaches. What does pain want? What are the meanings? She turned over the cards. The first 3 cards were So Moon, So Like the Moon, and Moon Fool. Next she pulled Shy Moon, Moon Wolverine, Moonologue, Moon Daycare Center, Moon Milk, Moon Pie, and Shark Moon. She shuffled and pulled one more card, Moon Corpse. O suddenly became aware of an antler lamp swaying above, its thick black electrical cord emerging from behind Crescent, bisecting her head. Crescent studied the cards and then spoke at length. O tried to follow. He caught some of it. Scorn mask, corn husks, incorporeal, bundles on fire, corpus, burning pages, frozen sea, omega, reincarnation, train station. Her interpretations eluded his grasp. She may as well have been talking to a bird, he thought. What's a hierophant? He asked. A teacher figure, she said. The cards are saying that you have been burned by a teacher. Is it true? But O's mind was blank. Does it ring a bell, he said. Crescent shuffled the deck once more, cut it and laid down Shark Moon and Moon Corpse. Shark Moon depicted a shark shadow swimming through a moonlit ocean of corn. Moon Corpse depicted a skeleton rider thrown high from a bucking bull at a night rodeo. He was startled. Moon Corpse again. Crescent frowned. She shuffled the deck 3 more times and turned over a last card. Moon Corpse. Now O was frightened. He stood up to leave. Hold on, she said as she scribbled in a notepad. I have referrals for you. She tore out a page and handed it to him with a look of concern. He glanced at it unseeing, thanked her, and left. In the hallway, he saw a dusty print he hadn't noticed before of a yellow bird with one canny eye, dressed in circus garb, les jongleurs. As he looked into the eye of the bird, he felt lonely. He had to admit it seemed he had a disorder of some kind. And yet, he considered, everyone he had ever known had one, be it attention deficit disorder, bipolar disorder, obsessive-compulsive disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder. Sometimes even disorders seem to exhibit signs of order coming in waves. O knew all complex systems to be inherently disorderly. Sonia had had bunions, shingles, amnesia, and depression. When O got home, he looked at the note paper. Crescent had written down 3 names and phone numbers, a free clinic, a doctor who charged on a sliding scale, and Crescent's teacher Sky, a past and future life reader. O called the free clinic and left him a message. The following week they called back and he was given a number to call in order to make an appointment to make an appointment. Eventually he made an appointment to make an appointment, but his appointment to make an appointment was months away. He had hoped to see someone sooner. He ended by calling the doctor Crescent had recommended in her note. She herself answered immediately and said she could see him right away. It seemed to O that the doctor's office concealed something. Paradoxically so, as the devices, implements, and charts seemed to have but one purpose, which was to expose, but without revealing. He whistled into mindless space as he waited. Whatever is told to me in this room about the future of my body, he thought, can I believe it? The doctor came in and examined him, rotating O slowly on a spinning chair. Did you wear tight caps as a child? She asked. No, he said, but I did wear headgear. Ah, she explained. Why did you have headgear? Because I had fangs, he responded. Ah, but you still have fangs, she said. Yes, he replied, I had 4. She peered into his mouth. She palpated his skull. You need to get an MRI, she said. O's heart exfoliated. It pounded in his ears like an oil rig. His hands and feet were encased in ice. I don't have insurance, he said. In that case, I'll do a telepathic MRI, she said. She handed him a laminated article she had written, faded and yellowed, and left the room, telling him she'd be right back. He tried to read the article, but it seemed to be written in another language. Maybe static, he thought, which he could not decipher. The words looked like stunned mice to him, sliding around in snow. When she returned a half hour later, the doctor told O that his brain had mutated or torn. She held up a piece of paper. On it was a detailed line drawing, a representation of his brain with a leaf shape curving out of the hippocampus. "You've developed a growth," she said. O thought it looked like a kite or a feather. "No," the doctor replied, "it's nothing like a kite or a feather. It's rigid, more like a bin." He was faint. He should get a second opinion, came the thought, blowing by like a plastic bag. He suppressed a secondary despair. From whom would he get another opinion? Ignoring him, the doctor got out her pendulum. Was he born with the errant flap or not? Where did it come from? The pendulum reading was indeterminate. O held the laminated page in both hands, and the doctor paced. She opened a drawer and took out a bag of rooms. She shook it and pulled out a little white stone. Gateway, she thought. She was at a threshold. She realized suddenly that this little pyramid was something very unusual. She abruptly left the room again. O stared at her laminated article written in static, but still couldn't make it out. Feeling vaporous, he looked around the room. There were a series of prints the doctor must have torn out of an old calendar. Robert Mapplethorpe, July. Kandinsky, April. Georgia O'Keeffe, January. When the doctor returned, O was standing in front of Rothko, October. "I've discovered a new form of cross-species parasitism," she explained. "A jumping species. This may be an evolutionary or metaphysical response to extinctions." O was rigid, hardly hearing, caught up in the word discovered. Discovery, he had learned in his autodidactic pursuits, often connoted an exploitative enterprise. The discovery of the so-called New World, for example, or the discovery by 3 men of the gene responsible for the dilation of a woman's cervix in labor, a gene to which they now own the patent, which is true. What is the nature of such a patent, O wondered. He had an image of a paper gate around a woman's waist, a kind of chastity belt made of law. The discovery of something that is already actively, widely, and freely in use or commonplace, and its subsequent patenting went hand in hand, hailed loudly, interrupting O's thoughts. The doctor took off her glasses and cleaned the lenses on the hem of her frock. "Well?" she asked. O said that he would call her, but he had another appointment. She warned him not to wait on the tests. O saw himself reflected twice, oblong in the lenses of her green-tinted glasses. He walked home, pausing once to look at a stand of quaking aspen in the parking lot of a bank. A gaunt man in a trench coat and no shoes stood in front with a sign, "You don't have to be a Rockefeller to help out a poor feller." When he got home, O decided to take control. Of what? He would clean, get organized. He began to reorganize. Among his unbearable correspondences, he found a few astrology columns he had saved. He reread an old horoscope. He had circled it at the time. "It is a good time to complete a project you've been putting off." He read another. "Forgive yourself for every mistake except one. You know the one." Which mistake? He couldn't say. On the one hand, he told himself he had no faith in astrology, no understanding of its premises. On the other, he was a sign somehow. On the one hand, just as he had 4 fangs, he was also a Capricorn. On the other hand, to describe himself as a 4-fanged Capricorn was to lose touch with something ineffable, his privacy, or maybe his freedom, his solitude, crawling thoughts in the dark, patterns and portions of light. Suddenly he thought of what the one mistake could be. Bundles on fire, burning pages. He had burned his first manuscript, the only copy besieged by doubt. Doubt, his undoing. How did it come to be there was such a breakdown between the commonplace way in which one acted and spoke and the insistent doubt one felt? Doubt was like a shark that constantly circled on the surface of his mind, ready to puncture his thoughts as they glided by. In the same way that he spoke with enthusiasm about astrological signs, while what he habitually felt was a droning confusion punctuated by political despair, so too did O seek hypoallergenic pillows when he meant to be writing his encyclopedic world historical novel. Even as a question mark hung constantly over the idea of astrology or any such system, O found himself resorting aloud to occult typologies as if he were committed, all the while doubting in secret, and secretly hoping to arrive at something he could not doubt. By this method he arrived at doubt. He secreted doubt. Doubt was his rudder. With it he steered in circles, inadvertently menacing himself. But it would have been false to say that he simply didn't believe in astrology, especially when there seemed to be something genuine in it. In the same way, there was sometimes something genuine about a poem. Certain poems, certain philosophical texts seemed to recognize their readers. Thus one could be read by what one read. He shuddered and suddenly began to cry. To undo the doctor's and Crescent's readings, he reached for something else to occupy him. He closed his wet lashes together and chose from his books arbitrarily, soliciting chance and providence. His unsteady hands landed on a tattered copy of Black Skin, White Masks. In it, Frantz Fanon described the oppressiveness of the white gaze, colonizing eyes projecting violently onto those they lit upon. O thought about his mother's descriptions of childhood, being beaten and bullied. They did not know her, yet they had seen evil in her. What was she made of? She wasn't sure. Why would they possess everything and she nothing? Oh, the fiction of inevitability on the face of things. What would people be like if they had never been